Ladies and gentlemen, this video is about Danny Granger, a guy who went from averaging 26 points per game to injuries ruining his career, and he ended up being out of the league. Now, Danny Granger is actually my favorite player of all time. He got me into basketball, so this is a very special video for me, and I will probably do more what-ifs about players whose careers were ruined by injury. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and let's get straight into the video. Danny Granger had not many good offers coming out of high school, so he took one from the University of Bradley, and he averaged 19 points per game in his sophomore year, and he wanted to go to a bigger school. So he chose the University of New Mexico, which is still kind of a small school, but it is actually a huge step up from Bradley. He would average 19 points per game in his junior season at New Mexico, and he would average 18 points per game in his senior season at New Mexico on 54% shooting. He declared for the 2005 NBA draft, and scouts saw him as a guy that can score at will, but he played against very shitty competition, so he was going to fall in the draft more than likely. The Indiana Pacers took him at pick 17 in the 2005 draft, and they were coming off a season where Ron Artest ruined their season by beating the shit out of a fan in the crowd. You all know that story. Danny Granger did not make much of an impact in his rookie season. He would only average 8 points per game. It did not get much playing time, but in his second season he made more of an impact as he got more minutes. He would average 14 points per game and would play in all 82 games, and actually started 57 games. In the next season he started all 82 games, and he had a breakout season. He would average 19 points per game on 44% shooting and 40% from the three, and would, in my opinion, be snubbed from the All-Star team. But the next season, Danny Granger truly made his impact known. Danny Granger would go off in the 2007-2008 season, and he would average 26 points per game with 5 rebounds and would shoot 44% from the field. Although the Pacers were actually terrible and his best co-star was Mike Dunleavy, Danny Granger made the most of it. He was obviously an all-star that year and would win the Most Improved Player award, but unfortunately this would be his best season. The next season, Danny Granger averaged 24 points per game, but the problem was his knees started to betray him and he missed 20 games that season. The Pacers would draft Paul George and Lance Stevenson that offseason, but the next season Danny Granger stayed healthy and averaged 21 points per game and played 79 games. And the Pacers finally made it back to the playoffs, where they were eliminated by the Chicago Bulls led by Derrick Rose. 2011-2012 season was a big season for the Indiana Pacers. They would make the second round of the playoffs against the Miami Heat. And as for Danny Granger, he would miss 20 games, but he would average 18 points per game. But in that playoff series, Danny Granger would suffer an injury that would linger for a long time. Danny Granger was ready to go for the 2012-2013 season, but he would actually suffer a calf strain in the first preseason game, and that would sideline him for a long time. He would only play 5 games that season, as his Indiana Pacers would go on to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they would lose in 7 games to the Miami Heat. Danny Granger is finally going to return for the 2013-2014 season, but he would suffer yet another injury in the preseason, and it would sideline him for a long time. He came back right before the trade deadline, but then the Pacers would actually trade him at the deadline. The trade sent Evan Turner and Lavoy Allen to Indiana, and Danny Granger would go to Philadelphia, but he was later bought out and was signed by the Clippers. Danny Granger would average 8 points per game in his 12 games spent with the Clippers coming off the bench, but that offseason he would sign a multi-year deal with the Miami Heat. He would only average 6 points per game that season, and that was actually the final time we would see Danny Granger in the NBA. That offseason, he was traded to the Phoenix Suns as a part of the Goran Dragic trade, but then he was cut right after. The Detroit Pistons actually picked him up, but then they waived him right after and right before the 2015-2016 season. So yeah, Danny Granger never played again after the 2014-2015 season. Danny Granger was only 32 years old, but his career was over now because of all the injuries he had. He had crazy potential, but the basketball gods hated him for some reason and his knees betrayed him. Now the question is, where is Danny Granger now? In 2017, Danny Granger would be an analyst for March Madness, but that's pretty much all we've heard from him ever since his retirement in 2016. But yeah, thank you guys for watching the video. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.